Approval of March meeting minutes, motion.
All in favor, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I
Say-
will.
Who's running this meeting?
We have a
Was
motion.
told
Is
to
there-
work.
I think we have a motion. Do we have a motion?
Yes, you have a motion, please.
Second,
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Auditors report.
You all have a copy of it?
No. I got it on my phone.
Okay. There might be a discrepancy with those March, might be in February, but I have a new accounts payable. So she might, when they filed them in February, she might have held on to them because we could write checks at the beginning of the month. So I'm just double checking that, otherwise everything is fine, and I have something else I need to.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Beth? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any claims, Barry?
Yes, I have two claims. They have not been previously submitted to the members by reason of email. Just received them today. This is the first one, which says it's January. I believe that's been paid. The second one says from February 1 to February 28.
Okay. For,
4,335. Am I right, Ryan?
4,335.
I don't think either one of those have been paid.
What?
I don't think either one of those. This is the one.
No, I don't have those. 5282, that's been paid.
January? Two thousand one thirty-two?
It was paid, it was,
2,132.62 was paid.
Was it 5,281 salary paid?
Both of those have been paid.
So is that one and two?
This was one. There was a different contract to start the survey. That's Monday.
I thought they forgot.
Oh, I did.
And then we switched.
I got to get it going. Jeremy does that this week.
It was two. Two, and then one we paid Larry, and it was three.
Okay, 2 and 3. That's all the way to January.
I worked on it.
This is the
Submitted
amount.
the-
So we have a claim for $4,335 from the HWC, and another claim.
Do you have the number, Barry?
Pardon?
Do you have a claim number for them? Have you done that?
It would be 199 and 200.
Claim 199 is for $4,300, $1,762.50. Is correct?
Let's see. Yes. Can we say that again?
And then we have a claim for this one also. Okay.
So claim 199 is how much?
Claim 199,
This is, we want to do this one first.
Okay.
Because this is the one.
from February 1st.
Yeah, and that's March 1st.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. We have a claim for 199 from HWC for February 1, 2021, invoice number 000002 for $4,335. questions on it? Monty, what was the,
Roadway design. Utility coordination. Yep. 3620 for roadway design, sub 15 for utility coordination.
I have a motion to, for claim 199?
Motion to approve 199 for $4,335.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claim 199 for $4,335 has been approved. Claim 200 from HWC is for $1,762.50.
1762.50.
1,762.50.
Thank you.
And it's for March 1st, billing period. And it covers design technician and utility coordination and roadway design. Motion,
Motion to pay claim 200.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for claim 200 for $1,762.50. Any other claims? Yes?
No, no, sir.
I did have something that claim that I've talked to Barry about, and I am going to confess that I made a mistake on your tip, money. And what happened was the money that was supposed to be sent to you, or deposited into yours, went to the city and vice versa. So, there is no comments from the community. Anyway, and I want to express that Leanne found this, I did not. And that was because of Matt Eckerly had told her she should have received all this money, which was not true either, because some of that was your money. So we were working it out, and I said, wait a minute here, I said, I think this is what it is. So I have a claim for $8,805.70, and that is the difference, that I would like to be paid to the Carroll County Treasurer, because I have steps I gotta go through. I can't just send it to the city. I don't want to just send it to the city. I could, but for my state board of accounts, I want it to be on record what happened, so I do have this claim.
So we received that amount too much, is that what you said?
Yes. You received $10,081.10, and it should have been $1,275.40.
So moved.
Second.
All
We
in
call
favor,
this claim 201,
claim 201.
and what's the amount
Motion to
again?
approve claim 201 from the Carroll County Treasurer, Auditor's Office to the City of Delphi.
It will eventually get to the city of Delphi, yes.
Okay.
So it's 8805.70.
$8,805.70, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. So I have a motion and a second for claim 201. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Claim 201 for $8,805.70.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody wanna sign this for me, though?
We'll get it straightened out one of these years, 'cause I think some of them, about every year, is doing something like
Well,
that.
not really.
Understandable.
Sorry, not really. I think that the city thought they should be getting more at one time, and they,
Yes.
yeah, and it wasn't that way. But now they're getting more on their second part of it, of the Deer Creek, Delphi area, those are the overlays,
Right.
so.
No other claims. We have, do I need to sign the forms for Baker and Tilly, for the state?
You do.
You don't be done by the 15th.
I don't think you need to sign.
I got the pass I had, maybe.
We received the TIP management report, and they say submit it to the council and commissioners, and then file it with DLGF, via Gateway. And we gotta do that prior to April 15th. All it takes is for the commission to acknowledge that you've seen it and reviewed it and approved it.
Okay.
I would be happy to pass it around.
I will also state that I did send that to the commissioners and the council by email, and I also presented it to the council at the regular meeting, so it can be in their minutes. I will do the same with the council, but they received it on email. I'm gonna print that off and put it in the file, because they have to recognize it for their minutes, and they're not meeting until April 22nd. It also has been put on Gateway.
Okay, thank you. So, that's the only other action, we don't need a motion or anything?
I believe you just need to acknowledge that you received it.
You know, we have seen, all members have seen the report.
Yeah, I believe I emailed it.
Right, okay, gotcha.
If I could have the report back, please.
And I'd like to have a signature on this one.
Pass it.
So you sign some claims, I don't know.
Our treasurer,
Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Trader.
I went ahead and signed it, but if you want to sign it, that would be great, just to have one of your signatures.
good to see you.
Thank you. Are you finished with me?
Did everybody get the budget that Barry had kind of proposed to us? Had a chance to look it over? Is there any questions on what Barry has kind of proposed as our budget for 2021 and 2022?
Barry, do you have that?
Yeah.
Some of you by chance? So you've got this 421 project in here at
Yeah.
around 818.
That's what they estimated the project to be at last year.
Including the engineering.
I believe so, yeah.
It was just construction, that was just the
That was
construction
just
cost.
construction.
Yeah, engineering was 153,000 on top of that, but as I told you, we're running under that, so I don't think we'll use all of it.
If we need to have that in the budget, well, part of that will be, obviously, a 2021 expense, but some of it will roll over to 2022. But, should we bump that up, knowing that the engineering is not in that figure? To maybe more, like $1 million? Because it's the 818 plus the 153, but it's probably not all gonna happen this year, but some of it will. And I know it's hard to, divide when it's actually gonna get paid out, but that's probably a more a closer number maybe, and hopefully it'll be less than that, because he indicated that maybe some of the paving would come off of the construction cost, but.
It'll be paid by
I'd
you.
rather have an allocation that's sufficient and be under that, than to have it at 818 and run it over.
Okay,
Is that a possibility?
I'll have to redo it and submit it to you at the next meeting.
Are we under any time constraints there?
I don't think so. I asked Beth what the next step would be beyond the approval of the budget. She said it's your money.
And Barry, I can get you a better number by then, and probably a time frame.
Okay, great.
when
Yeah.
that would be. If you don't need it all at the time of letting, that's something else. If you can award it. If not.
Even though it
budget.
exceeds or something, yeah.
Yes.
I thought it would typically be submitted to the council, but she says not. It's your money, it's not the council's money.
Yeah, I think historically, we've not had a
You have not had,
written budget.
you have an ongoing budget.
That's right. Yeah. But the only thing, we're just concerned about the dollar limit, and it could possibly be over that.
Cause you have that.
And so you would amend your budget at that point in time if it goes over, right?
We could.
Same thing
Yeah.
as the approval of your, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the
Yeah.
way we've been doing it for the past
Yeah.
30 years.
As long as, I mean, I don't have a problem with it as long as, you know, whenever that time comes, whether it's 21 or 22, if the project exceeds it, then we don't have a problem awarding a bid because our budget is limited to a lesser number. That was the only thought.
And if you amend your budget at that time,
Okay.
allocate more.
Brian said that by the first of May, he would have that figure for you. Is there any time then?
Sure.
And then my next question is on the budget, just think about it, is I know there's been a lot of talk about residential TIF. And we have nothing in there, and should we be putting something in the 2021 budget for something like that? My next question is, I don't know how much to ask for if we put it in a budget. And I don't know whether you can even answer that with either, Jimmy.
I think the consultants are saying no more than 30,000 to establish a TIF, and that doesn't say or commit the commission to spend that this year, but I would recommend, maybe budgeting approximately that amount, just in case there's an opportunity to establish a TIF.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
You made mention in the meeting on May the 5th.
Yeah, I thought Jake was gonna, let him just, he's got all the information on it today. But does anybody have any disagreement with adding another 30,000 for residential to the budget?
Well, where I was going with my statement was, would it be worth waiting until after that meeting to see what we can and can't do?
That meeting won't be a determining factor, I don't believe. I don't think there'll be any votes taken, more just informational. I would, yeah. No harm, no foul. We did engage Baker Tilly, the EDC did, with an engagement letter, so we are on the clock with them. So they are doing some work leading up to, so, I would expect some expenditures to come because of that time that they're committing for us.
I guess I'm thinking that right now, we're looking at May, so that's 6 months, 5 months into the year. If anything, it's gonna be towards the backside of the year. If something comes up to 30,000, at least we have it in the budget that we've got something set up for residential TIF. At least that's what I'm thinking.
Sounds good.
So why don't you add that in for the May meeting, that'll be added into the budget also.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on the budget? Or discussion that needs to be made before the next meeting on it? Brian, got some updates or whatever on the wording of 4.1?
So quick update on this, I've got a written update going out to everybody. Continuing on with, plan development, we have established, right-of-way needs and have got that to the, right-of-way subconsultant. And he's coordinated with Barry on what type of documentation we need, and it takes. So that process will now start, with appraisals. It'll take about 60 days for appraisals and 30 days response time, on those. So anytime with, right-of-way or easement, requests, we're not real sure how long that takes. Maybe we're quicker than that. One thing to note here is on that item 5, we talked with the NDOT representative about, basically southbound coming out of the, Hoosier Heartland Industrial Park of 100, basically widening that, having acceleration there, lane there. They were kind of on the fence before, and now they said they don't really see the traffic numbers to justify that, and suggested we wait, before we move forward with that. So if a development happens, we can come back and probably have it constructed while they're building any development. But I wanted to bring that up, and if you want to really push back to NDOT, we can push back and see if we can get it built now. But right now, we're not designing it because they've asked us not to build it.
What's the downside from NDOT's perspective about doing?
It's basically the geometry, and because typically you would have opposing left turn lanes, and here we don't really have that. We have one lane going through, and then adding another lane to it. They're not too fired up about the geometry of it and causing more problems. And I think they're worried about trucks then pulling out and pulling further into that passing lane and thinking they have more room than they do.
So the passing lane as it is today would be
Yes.
because it does extend beyond 100 a little bit.
So the only other way that anything could change out there would be development, right, to make that work.
Yeah.
For the state to agree to. Okay.
I've listed kind of what our right-of-way needs are, our anticipated right-of-way needs are, and so that's what we're starting to develop.
Are these in dollars, or what are we?
Those are square footage.
Square footage.
So some of it's permanent, and then some of it's just temporary. So temporary is basically where we reworking a ditch or, something. So the construction grading may get off into their property a little bit, but we just use it for construction and give it back to them. So, we pay it differently. It's a lot less.
Is that much of an expense, say that Patricia and permit? Just curious. Do you know what the cost would be?
We have not done the appraisals.
I see.
I used to know, okay, permanent was $3 a square foot and temporary was $1. That's kind of out the window now. It's just hard to justify, or, to anticipate what those costs would be. So we just kind of leave it, let the appraisal do it, and go from there. So I hate to even throw out numbers.
Once the appraisals and all this stuff done in 60 days, hopefully,
Then we approach the property owners, and they have, I think, 30 days to respond to it.
and then after the 30 days is up, we either agree that they don't approve it or disapprove it, that's it, that's the final.
There's a few different steps we can take. Talk about that when we get closer to it.
So when will we be looking at taking bids?
So I would think late summer. I had on here June 30th, but I think we're probably a month or month and a half beyond that. So we're probably talking end of July, middle of August.
And how hungry are construction today? Not very hungry, or is?
There's a lot of work out there right
Pretty
now.
fat.
Yeah, so,
Pretty fat.
but if we give them enough time frame and give them over the winter months, and, because NDOT is not bidding their project until March of next year, so we don't wanna get too far out in front of these guys and have construction, the road tore up and orange
Okay.
barrels out there, so I think we'll be able to give that contractor until probably April or May of next year to get work done. So
Okay.
we may be just kind of, in a perfect world, and it never goes that way, but in a perfect world, we would be just finishing up, and the NDOT's contractor would be coming in behind us and putting the surface down and straight.
Is there any benefit to us to bid the job and find out who returned the NDOT contract before we get too much further down the road? I mean, obviously we have to put it up for bid, but like, make sure that they were requested in the bid pack, or in the bidders. Am I asking an unclear question?
No, I understand. I think it just then puts us too far behind, because their project's more just a mill and resurface. They're not.
Oh,
we've
there's
got-
not adequate time.
We've got
I
a lot
see.
more construction, underground work.
No,
It's
I-
kind of my gut feel,
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah.
and it would be beneficial to have those as the same people, but I don't know. I just don't.
So NDOT might get the benefit of us doing this job, we don't get the benefit of NDOT. If somebody's already here, they would obviously just like to do the NDOT job.
Yeah.
NDOT job, yeah. Oh, well. Is what it is.
But our job's gonna have more excavation than theirs, I think. I haven't seen that on the plan. We have set a set of draft plans that we've sent out to utilities to kind of get coordination, but it doesn't have anything in it. It's kind of weird. Any questions?
Almost a different subject, but the jail and the sewage line, potential upgrade in size and such. Is that stubbed across to I can't remember, to the east side?
Not yet.
Will that be bored?
I believe it would be. That was the draft set of plans I saw from, the FNS.
So they wouldn't come in and cut a newly
No.
completed project? Okay. That was my only reason.
We
for
haven't
asking.
finalized that conversation with them, because I think they were still discussing on, and I haven't heard, I don't know if you've heard what the final size is.
Yeah, no, I just knew that there's gonna be probably a upsize to it.
We did touch base with them and talked about it, and they've got a set of our plans, so we're trying to coordinate. It'll be on that kind of the south side of that intersection.
Yeah. And it's, I can remember this stuff across, so we're right across the road, right? Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next on, Anita from the city of Delphi has a proposal for the RDC. The city of Delphi and the Delphi TIF are asking for the Redevelopment Commission to help do go ahead, Anita.
So what we're asking is for some assistance with a master plan for the
Burnbrae Farms. This is the Bowen property that we understand is going to be sold at auction this fall. About 275 acres, 75 of that is in the county, and roughly 200 is in the city limits. This is also located in the Opportunity Zone, which means that if we can, develop a master plan for how this property will be developed, how it will look, create that visual image for people, this will become part of our Rural Opportunity Zone initiative, and as we create perhaps an opportunity fund, and I'll let Jake talk to that in just a minute, as far as what those advantages might be there. This is our opportunity, I think, of many generations to create a residential, primarily residential development within the city limits, and obviously some territory just outside of the city limits. This is zoned urban. It has been in agricultural use for probably forever, and with its proximity to the school corporation, I mean, it's across the highway from the schools. It's very close to, in proximity to downtown. It's close to recreational assets with Deer Creek and trails that go through Delphi. And of course, it has also the opportunity for a healthcare campus perhaps next to the existing health clinic there on Prince William, and some opportunity for retail and commercial along 200. So it's an exciting prospect for this to go to market, and we want to be positioned to have a plan in place for what the development will look like, and also to attract investors, because we need to secure this property. This is all coming together at the same time as we're looking at areas for residential TIF, and obviously this is a key area for that. Whether that is a Delphi TIF or a county TIF or a combined TIF, I think we'll learn more about those possibilities on May 5th when we hear from the experts and can ask questions. But regardless, I think what we're looking for now is partners to help create that vision of what this property could mean, what it would look like as developed. The Delphi Redevelopment Commission has pledged $11,000, as has the city of Delphi, and so we would see $11,000 from the county RDC to help with that. Jake, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just in our case with the Economic Development Corporation, being able to paint a picture for private investment is always going to be to our advantage. I think I've discussed that with this commission before. Is anytime we step in front of investors, and I can tell you that I've personally spoken and sat down with investors that this property is very, very intriguing to them, and they have the means to purchase the property. So the important part is that I'm able to show them that the partnership between the city of Delphi TIF, the city of Delphi, and the county RDC, as well as the EDC, have all come together to create a vision for what a property could be. We understand that there are private investors to some degree, and they control what the market bears, but something like this request certainly shows those investors that we are serious about the growth of Delphi and the parts of the county that are affected by this as well.
What would we be looking at as time frame from now until this, how soon are you wanting this master plan to be done and ready to go out?
This would be within a 6 to 8 week timeframe. So, as we're putting together, as you know, Delphi was accepted as for the Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative with Purdue and Office of Community and Rural Affairs and Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. that kickoff meeting is tomorrow. Josh Blue and Julia Leahy, Jake Adams and I are on that core team for the Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative. Part of what we'll be doing, in the next several months will be to create a prospectus for potential investors in the Opportunity Zone. This is a key piece, for that, prospectus, and also, as we, continue to, promote, properties outside of, certainly outside of the city limits, which are in the Opportunity Zone. We've got this sort of chicken-egg situation now that we run into when we're looking for industrial development. If you don't have housing, then it's harder to sell, getting, an industrial development to the south of the city. If you don't have that industrial development, it's harder to think that residential development should take place. So we have the opportunity here, I think it comes maybe once in a lifetime, to secure a property that would be ideally suited for residential development, and which should enable us then to attract other types of development, particularly industrial development, in other parcels that are within the Opportunity Zone. So it all kind of fits together, hand in glove, and it feels as if there's a lot of synergy that is moving us in a very positive direction, both city-wise and with the county. So we're certainly hoping that the County Redevelopment Commission will participate with us to develop a vision for what this property could bring to our community.
So who will own the contract with the company?
The city of Delphi.
City of Delphi. So who is gonna be in charge of the specifics within the plan, or the direction of the land utilization?
So what will happen over the early part of this project will be that the company will, will basically have some focus groups where we have people from the community involved in participating. We've already had, I think, some preliminary discussions that have, where we've had people at the table from I think Larry has been at the table, as has Cameron Yates from the area plan, Joe Mayfield from the Delphi Redevelopment Commission. Just talking through roughly what kinds of things we would expect to see in a plan like this. Obviously, this gives us the opportunity for what levels of housing, how should that be configured in this space. We know that today we have very little space for executive housing, and kind of as a result of that, our executives from IPC, I don't think there's a single one who lives in the county, so when they get involved in their community, it's not this community. They're getting involved in Lafayette or West Lafayette or some other community. And while they support as a corporation, certainly Carroll County and Delphi, by not living here, by not being in the community, they're not as active in our not-for-profits and our civic organizations and supporting what goes on day to day in the community. Single-family homes, we don't have them, and there are very few properties where we can build. In fact, and Watsons have been good at finding individual properties and great contributions to the smaller number of developments. But if we're going to attract a company, a large corporation, then they're going to need to know that their workforce can find homes in the area, and that we're not just going to steal from another company in terms of workforce, and that we can attract people into the area. And part of that may be multifamily homes as well. So how to position all of those so that they complement one another and don't create you know, a sort of an imbalance, is part of what this concept plan will do for us. And also to show, you know, where retail and commercial would be appropriate, and where there is opportunity for other, commercial development. So, also the connectivity, the elements of connectivity with the schools, with the downtown, with our trail system. We'll have, an intriguing part of this property is that that little point that goes up, crosses over Deer Creek. At the very tip of that point is the Monon High Bridge Trail, which is going to be paved this summer, and create an overlook that has decking out over the High Bridge itself. Imagine a suspension bridge in that area that would connect this development, this residential development, with the trail system. Those are the kinds of visioning things that we'll work through with members from the community and you know, school corporation and other interested parties.
Question, is there any negatives to, you know, doing this kind of thing where some developer might say, well, they're telling me what to do, you know, they're trying to push me to do things a certain way? Any thoughts on that?
I think what we usually find is that if you can show a developer that the community is behind a vision, and that you've removed most of the hurdles that they would encounter from a zoning standpoint, and so forth, then, you know, they're happy to see that you have a plan. This also helps us from an infrastructure standpoint by having a preliminary concept plan to know where infrastructure needs to go, and to begin moving forward on that as appropriate. So there could be pushback, but more likely than not, the fact that you've created an opportunity that involves basically all demographics, and it takes into account both the commercial side and potential services such as healthcare. You're kind of, you know, giving them a plan that they can begin acting on. And it's not gonna be one developer doing, you know, all of the pieces in this. More likely than not, it's going to be developers who specialize in the retail, that are gonna wanna do the retail development, and different levels of home builders, for the residential components. So I think by creating a plan, what we're doing is preventing the possibility of, you know, that I guess always has existed with this, that just as we, you know, did the senior place, the water tower place, a nice project, is that where that should have gone? There was land available, so it went there. There are no services for seniors out in that area. We have no public transportation. Someone else could come in and say, I want this 30 or 40 acres, so I can put, you know, 10, 15, 20 homes on it. But that might preclude you from doing something else that would, as a whole, be much more attractive.
So are you proposing that there be some other action taken on, as a subsequent action to this plan being enacted, in terms of zoning or in terms of something else?
Not at this time. All of the land that's within the city limits is zoned as urban one, so, you know, that would allow for all the types of residential development that we talked about, as well as the commercial and healthcare. The part that's outside of the city is zoned ag, so, I believe, or commercial, I think it's ag still. So there